Good morning. Thanks for letting me come talk to you again. So of course, this is Mother's Day, and Pastor Sean a while ago had asked me what Sunday in May that I would like to do the sermon on. And this gospel is one of my favorites, probably my favorite. And so I picked this one, and then I realized it was Mother's Day. So it all came together, I hope. I don't know, you let me know. So this is a sermon for the moms. And it seems impossible to talk about Mother's Day without talking about the pandemic, because this has been a very hard year for moms. Kids being home and scared and homeschooling and all of the stuff that we all had to live through, and yet they had kids climbing on them at the same time and going to the store and is my child going to be okay? And so I just want to say to all the moms who have survived this year so well, we see you and we honor you, and good job. And this is not the only year that motherhood has been hard, of course. I'm just thinking about all of those moms who sent their children off to the Vietnam War or other wars, or all of the uncertainty of what it means to have your living, beating heart walking around out in the world, in a world that's scary, and they're maybe making bad decisions, and you can only do so much about that. So I'm not a mom, and I think a lot of you guys know that, but when I think about how hard it must be to be a mom, I wonder, how do you all sleep? And maybe you don't. But so I just really want to be honoring of what that means, and all of the moms here today. So as I was reading and considering the gospel this week, it occurred to me that perhaps Jesus is giving moms some helpful tips here. I don't think you would have thought that the Bible would have parenting tips, but here we are. It seems to me that there is kind of a two-step process that Jesus is pointing to here in making the experience of motherhood maybe a little easier. And I think we could all pay attention to this. And anytime any of us who are asked to give more than we know how to give, or anyone who is being generous with their time and spirit, anyone who loves with a self-emptying grace that we consider to be normal for moms or required of moms, all of us do this in our different ways. And so this is for us too. And as Christians, as we hear in the gospel today, we are actually all called to lean into this kind of love, that we are asked to love each other as Jesus has loved us. And that is truly a self-emptying laying down of our lives for each other. So what an incredible call that we are asked to lean into. And so this is really a two-step process for all of us as we move into that. But I do want to point out that the self-giving, the self-emptying part is step 2 of the process. So I want to back up to step 1. Before I came to Faith Lutheran, I would drive by the church and not knowing about how wonderful you guys are and how much grace and love there is in this building, in this congregation, I would be really bugged by a big sign that used to be out there. Maybe it's still out there and I just don't notice it now, but it used to say, "Come to worship, go to serve." And you may ask why I would be bugged by that sign, but I was not in a church, and I was out in the world, and I was doing my best to give and serve, and I was stretched really thin. So the idea of coming to worship sounded like work, and then going to serve sounded like more work. This did not sound like the good news to my tired heart. I needed serving, and I needed rest. Thankfully for me, I did not let my irritation get the best of me, and I kind of knew I was grouchy and out of whack, so I was just like, whatever, I'm just going to check that at the door. And I came, and I thank you. But I think it is easy for practicing Christians to forget that there is a step before worship and there is a step before service, particularly for people who are not grounded in their relationship to God. And even those of us who consider ourselves grounded, it's really easy to let our days get full and lose our prayer practice and just go without a pause until Sunday. We can still get overly tired, and we can still think the world depends on us alone. I mean, I'm assuming it's not just me. So going back to the gospel reading, Jesus says in John today, I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing, but I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. So when I hear this, I hear him saying, now I call you friends and no longer servants. And the hierarchy in this relationship seems to be melting away. And there is a change in the relationship that is moving into something bigger and deeper. And I highly doubt that Jesus says, now that I've had some time to get to know you, I'm going to call you friends. Like, something else is happening here, right? And it's also not the disciples who are suddenly able to pull off all the commandments correctly. We know actually they never do that. So what makes them friends? What happens? What I think Jesus is naming is something else, and I imagine in this moment that they are gathered with their hearts open, full of love, feeling the Holy Spirit among them, and that they are in a state that perhaps all of us have felt at different times in our lives of being in communion with each other, in communion with God or the whole of creation. And then he tells them, you are no longer my servants, but you are my friends, because now that you are ready, we can be in that relationship. Now that we're in this space together, a different thing can happen. And now, because this is happening in a different way, I call you to love others as I have loved you. So here are the steps of 1 and 2. Step 1 is settling into the love of God, being held, being accepted, finding that connection of the branch to the vine that Pastor Sean was talking about last Sunday, knowing that we aren't the vine, asking for help, being the children of God, not the friend of God, but being the children in this. And then when we are settled in and abiding and our hearts are full, then we have the opportunity to move fully into step 2, which is to move forward into the world with love for others as Jesus loved others. I wrote that better. Sorry, I didn't read very well. But I hope you understand what I'm saying, that there is a moment where we truly have the capacity and we are filled and we are able to give selflessly without draining our own cups. And we aren't asked at all to go out and do our step 2s in the world without the step 1. In fact, when we do our step 2s without the step 1, or maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but this is when I start over helping, over extending, over displaying, over whatevering, because that is the moment we're not grounded and we're not in contact with the sane and beautiful love of our God. It reminds me that this is actually how dancing works. So if you guys have ever done like a dance, like a partner dance or like foxtrot or something, you know, you have to listen for that 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Before you know how to step on the 1. And when musicians play together, they always count 1, 2, 3, 4 to know where the 1 is. Dancers need to know where the 5, 6, 7, 8 is, because there's a lilting to music where you have kind of like the up and then the down. So it's kind of like the breathing in and the breathing out that happens in music. And that's where dancing comes from. So you have this kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And that's how, and we can feel that. We can feel that in music. And for the folks who are thinking, I couldn't find the 1 and I couldn't find the 8 to save my life, you actually can. You just have to listen, you have to practice, and you have to just learn it. It's actually part of our bodies that we know how to do this, hardwired. And to me, this is kind of like what Jesus is saying here, is that we need to settle in and listen with intention and just be like, I know that my God is here with me. Even if I don't think I can find the 5, 6, 7, 8, it's actually here for me. I trust it. I can lean into that faith. And then when we are found, we can abide and step forward and be skillful. And it also is, if you've learned to dance like I have, a few different things, when we mess up, because we will, you just are like, okay, I'm just going to stop, listen again, settle in again, and move forward. So in real life, what does this look like? Throughout the Bible, in various ways, Jesus tells us you are known and loved and precious at all times, but most particularly in your pain and anguish. He doesn't say when you figure out how to be holy and perfect, then you can be one with me and God. No, he says, I know you now as you are, and I hear you now. I am the good shepherd to lead you home when you are lost, and I too will be known through my scars, as he tells Thomas. I too will be known to you when you care for the least. This is where I will be. That is how I will enter your home, not on a throne, but in hunger and in need. And is that not stable ground for us when we are lonely and we want to be known? Jesus is telling us, come to me in your honest expression. I already love you. I see you. I am ready to provide for you. The table is already set and the hug is ready at the door. You do not need to do anything other than be hungry and tired. And that is good news, right? So now, does that not sound like our most wonderful image of what mothering love is like and should be? So step one is perhaps to be the child and go to our mothering God and share our need and our pain. That may look like prayer or practicing stillness, reading the Bible, or walking in nature, or whatever your practice of listening to God might be. One of my favorites is complaining to God. Try it, it's really good medicine for stressed out people. But then when we are filled and move into communion with Jesus and our triune God, living and abiding in the flow of love, then we are called into the dance to love others as Jesus loved us. In a way, Jesus is saying we're all mamas now. We are all invited in by Jesus, in fact, commanded by Jesus to love as mothers love. And along with the continual remembrance that we still need to also be the child, that we also need to be the child with our God and ask for the grace and the love and the security and the reassurance and all the things we need. We still need our step ones. We will not be perfect about this, and there is certainly no one I know who should or could find perfection in themselves in enlightenment before going out and practicing love. We need to do both of these things simultaneously, but not just self-emptying love as Jesus did and does, but rather in self-emptying love while continuously and joyously being filled by our ultimate source and our Holy Father, Mother God. So thanks be to God for showing us the way of love, for building in a model into our lives of what love looks like and feels like through our mothers. And for those of us who have yet to experience the nourishing embrace of love through our families of origin, help us to feel and know it here with you so that we are cradled and healed in your love, and help us to in turn cradle others. Amen.